We spend so much time trying to figure out love. We analyze texts, decode signals, chase feelings. But what if we've been starting in the wrong place? What if love doesn't begin with the rush of chemistry, but with clarity? Clarity about who we are, what we value, and what we need. You see, it's easy to get caught up in attraction. But attraction isn't alignment. Chemistry can spark a connection, but it's clarity that sustains it. Real love doesn't show up with fireworks. It shows up every single day, quietly, consistently. We've been taught to look for the big moments, anniversaries, gifts, grand gestures. But the truth is, love lives in the small things, in showing up when it's inconvenient, in listening when it's hard, in being emotionally consistent, not just emotionally intense. Commitment isn't just saying I love you, it's living those words over and over through action. A relationship is only as healthy as the people in it. We're not supposed to enter relationships to feel whole. We're supposed to enter them because we already are. When you've done the work to understand yourself, to heal, to grow, you stop looking for someone to fix your brokenness. You start looking for someone who respects your wholeness. And that changes everything. Too many of us avoid conflict as if it's a sign that something's wrong. But conflict, when handled with care and curiosity, is actually a sign of something going right. It means you care enough to engage. It means you're invested enough to stay. Real connection doesn't come from avoiding hard conversations. It comes from getting through them together. Disagreement isn't the enemy. Disrespect is. And when two people can face a storm and still choose to hold hands, that's love. We live in a world that celebrates perfection, power, performance. But in relationships, the real strength is in vulnerability. The ability to say, I'm scared, or I need you, or I don't have it all figured out, that's not weakness. That's courage. Vulnerability invites connection. It builds trust. And without trust, love becomes a performance rather than a partnership. And that's what love is supposed to be, a partnership. Not a competition, not a performance, not a game. When we stop trying to win and start trying to understand, something incredible happens. We start building instead of battling. We stop keeping score and start keeping each other safe. We realize we're not meant to impress each other, we're meant to support each other. So what if we approached relationships differently? What if we valued depth over drama, commitment over convenience, connection over control? Love doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful, it just has to be real. And real love is built one choice, one conversation, one moment at a time. We often romanticize this spark, that magical moment when you lock eyes with someone across the room and everything else fades away. The butterflies, the instant connection, the overwhelming feeling that this is it. And yes, chemistry is powerful, it's exciting, it's intoxicating. But here's the truth most people don't talk about. Chemistry can be blinding. It can pull you towards someone who looks like everything you want while distracting you from everything you actually need. Clarity, on the other hand, isn't flashy. It doesn't give you butterflies. It gives you grounding. It's the quiet confidence of knowing who you are, what matters to you, and what kind of relationship will truly support your growth. While chemistry might get you into a relationship, clarity is what keeps it healthy. Think about it. How many times have you been drawn to someone based on how they made you feel in the moment, only to realize later that the connection lacked depth, alignment, or mutual respect? It's not because you're broken, it's because chemistry is an emotion, and emotions are temporary. Clarity is a decision, and decisions shape your future. We've been taught to chase passion, but not to define purpose. So we enter relationships based on feeling instead of foundation. But here's the truth. Feelings change. Attraction fades. Life throws challenges, and when it does, only a relationship built on clarity, shared values, mutual respect, aligned life goals can weather the storm. Clarity starts with asking yourself the hard questions. What do I value? What kind of life do I want to build? What am I not willing to compromise on? It's not about having a checklist for your partner. It's about having a compass for yourself. When you're clear on your non-negotiables, you stop settling for people who are exciting but unavailable. You stop chasing the high of being wanted and start seeking the stability of being truly seen. Here's the beautiful part. When you operate from clarity, you actually experience deeper, more meaningful chemistry. Because now it's not just physical or emotional, it's intellectual, spiritual, purposeful. You're connecting with someone who fits your life, not just your moment. And that kind of connection doesn't burn out, it builds. We all crave connection. We want to be chosen. We want to feel special. But love is not about being picked, it's about being aligned. Chemistry can make you feel chosen. Clarity helps you choose wisely. So the next time you meet someone and the sparks are flying, pause. Don't run away from the chemistry. But don't let it lead either. Lead with clarity. Ask the deeper questions. Listen with intention. Pay attention not just to how they make you feel, but how they make you think, how they treat others, how they handle pressure, how they show up when things aren't going well. That's where the truth lives. Clarity is a form of self-respect. It says, I know who I am. I know what I need. And I'm not going to trade long-term peace for short-term passion. That doesn't mean love should be boring. It means love should be intentional. The best relationships aren't built on the high of intensity. They're built on the strength of alignment. When you have clarity, you're no longer at the mercy of chemistry. You're in control. You stop falling in love by accident and start building love by design. And that's the kind of love that doesn't just feel good, it does good. It challenges you, supports you, grows with you. So yes, let chemistry in, but let clarity lead. We live in a world that glorifies big gestures, surprise proposals, romantic vacations, handwritten love letters that go viral. And while all of those things are beautiful, they're not what makes a relationship last. It's not the fireworks that keep love alive. It's the daily spark of showing up over and over again. That's why real commitment isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's consistent. Consistency is the quiet strength of love. It's the check-in text in the middle of a busy day. It's remembering how they take their coffee. It's choosing to listen even when you're tired. Choosing to stay kind even when you're frustrated. It's showing up not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's not. Because commitment isn't proven when things are easy. It's revealed when things are hard. We often think of commitment as a promise, but promises can be broken. Consistency builds trust. Because it's not about what you say, it's about what you do. It says, I don't just love you, I choose you again and again. That choice, made in 1,000 small ways, becomes the foundation of a relationship that lasts. Anybody can say, I'll be there for you. But will they show up when you're overwhelmed, when you're anxious, when you're not at your best? Will they stay when the excitement fades and life becomes routine? That's when consistency matters most. Love isn't just about what you feel, it's about what you do with those feelings. It's action over intention, presence over performance. The truth is, consistency is harder than intensity. Intensity is exciting, it's emotional, it's what fuels the beginning of most relationships, but consistency is what builds the middle and holds it through the storms. It's the difference between someone who falls in love and someone who knows how to stay in love. And staying in love takes effort. It takes presence. It takes emotional discipline. When you're consistent, you don't just react to how you feel in the moment. You respond based on what you've committed to. It's not about being perfect, it's about being reliable. Your partner shouldn't have to guess which version of you they're going to get today. Safety in a relationship comes from knowing that the emotional ground beneath you is stable. That's the beauty of consistency. It builds safety. And safety is what gives love space to grow. When both people feel safe, they can be honest, they can be vulnerable, they can mess up and know it won't be the end. Consistency doesn't mean you never disagree. It means you keep showing up even after you do. We often chase excitement in love, but excitement doesn't equal depth. Some of the most passionate relationships crash because they were fueled by intensity, not built on consistency. Long-lasting relationships don't always look exciting from the outside, but on the inside, they're rich with emotional trust, quiet moments, and deep connection. Consistency is choosing love even when it feels inconvenient. It's returning to the conversation instead of walking away. It's remembering what matters even when your emotions want to take over. That's real strength. That's real love. So, if you're wondering what it takes to make a relationship work, look past the Instagram-worthy moments. Look for the patterns. Look for the person who shows up for you on the ordinary days, who checks in without being asked, who listens without fixing, who apologizes when they're wrong, who remembers the little things because they matter to you. We all want love. We want to be seen, to be heard, to be chosen. But here's the truth. No relationship can thrive if the people in it are at war with themselves. Healthy relationships don't magically appear when two people fall for each other. They're built intentionally by individuals who have taken the time to understand, heal, and grow on their own. You can't build something strong on an unstable foundation. If you haven't done the inner work, if you don't know who you are, what you value, what wounds you carry, you'll project all of that onto the relationship. You'll expect your partner to fix what was never theirs to fix. You'll confuse their support with salvation. And eventually that weight will break even the most loving bond. Because the truth is, no one can complete you. That idea that someone out there will fill the empty parts of you is not romance. It's a trap. It's a setup for disappointment, frustration, and codependency. You don't need to be completed. You need to be whole. And then you bring that wholeness into the relationship, not to take, but to share. That doesn't mean you have to be perfect before you love someone. None of us are. But there's a difference between growing with someone and expecting them to carry your healing for you. Healthy individuals take responsibility for their emotional world. They recognize their patterns. They do the work to break cycles instead of repeating them. When two whole people come together, they don't lose themselves in each other. They don't merge to the point of forgetting who they are. Instead, they create a third space, the relationship, where both people are fully seen, fully valued, and free to be themselves. There's independence and connection, space and intimacy, freedom and belonging. But that only happens when each person brings self-awareness to the table, when you've looked in the mirror and asked the hard questions. What am I still carrying? What triggers me and why? Where do I need to grow? What kind of partner do I want to be? Not just what kind I want to have. Most people skip this part. They jump into relationships hoping love will solve everything. But love doesn't erase your insecurities, it magnifies them. Love doesn't hide your wounds, it exposes them. And that's not a bad thing. In fact, it's an opportunity. But only if you're willing to face what's inside instead of running from it. The healthiest relationships aren't the ones with the least conflict. They're the ones where both people feel safe enough to be honest. And honesty starts with self-awareness. When you know yourself, you communicate clearly. You set boundaries without guilt. You don't take everything personally. You respond instead of reacting. You become a partner, not a project. And when you show up whole, you attract different kinds of people. You stop settling for attention and start looking for alignment. You're not impressed by charm alone, you're drawn to character. You stop falling for intensity and start recognizing consistency. You move with intention. That shift changes everything. Because now you're not loving out of fear, you're loving from fullness. You're not desperate for someone to choose you. You've already chosen yourself. And that energy, that self-respect is magnetic. It invites a love that's mutual, grounded, and real. So if you want a healthy relationship, start with you. Do the work, heal the wounds, know your worth. Build a life you're proud of, and then invite someone into it, not to fix you, but to grow with you. That's where real love begins. Not in needing someone, but in choosing them from a place of wholeness. Because when two people who love themselves deeply come together, they don't complete each other. Most people see conflict as a red flag, as something to fear, something that signals the beginning of the end. We've been conditioned to think that if we argue, something must be wrong. The disagreement means we're not compatible. But that's not true. Conflict in and of itself is not the problem. Avoiding it is. Conflict is not the end of connection. It's the beginning of understanding. It's a doorway, a powerful one. And when we walk through with curiosity instead of defensiveness, with the desire to grow rather than win, we deepen the relationship instead of damaging it. The reality is, no matter how in sync two people are, they will eventually run into friction. Why? Because you're different. You were raised differently. You think differently. You experience the world differently. And when two different worlds collide, conflict isn't just possible, it's inevitable. But here's where it gets powerful. Conflict isn't a threat to a strong relationship. It's a tool to make it even stronger when handled well. It brings hidden emotions to the surface. It reveals unmet needs, misunderstood boundaries, unspoken expectations. These aren't things to avoid. They're the exact things that help you grow closer. Conflict, when respected, becomes a conversation, not a fight. The problem is that most people approach conflict with the wrong goal. They want to win. They want to be right. They want to defend their ego instead of understanding the other person's heart. But if your goal is to win the argument, you'll lose the relationship. Healthy conflict isn't about creating a winner and a loser. It's about making sure both people feel seen, heard, and valued. Think about it. When was the last time you left an argument feeling misunderstood? Even if you won. It doesn't feel like winning. Because love isn't about proving your point. It's about proving your presence. It's saying, I care more about this connection than I do about being right. That mindset shifts everything. When you see conflict as a wall, you shut down. You either avoid it entirely or you fight to break through it with force. But when you see it as a doorway, you walk through it differently. You ask better questions. You listen more than you speak. You seek clarity, not victory. And what happens next is amazing. You don't just resolve the issue. You understand each other better than you did before. But that kind of growth takes emotional maturity. It takes a willingness to be uncomfortable. It requires you to step outside your own perspective and genuinely consider the other person's experience. That's not always easy, but it's always worth it. And here's what's even more important. How you handle conflict becomes the emotional blueprint of your relationship. It determines whether your connection feels safe or stressful, whether your partner sees you as a teammate or a threat. Conflict doesn't destroy trust. How we treat each other during conflict does. So the next time tension rises, slow down, take a breath. Remind yourself that this isn't the enemy, this is an opportunity. You're not here to fight against each other, you're here to fight for the relationship. Use the moment to learn, to clarify, to build trust, not break it. Because in healthy relationships, conflict isn't something you fear, it's something you face together. Not because you enjoy it, but because you understand what's on the other side. Deeper connection, greater empathy, and more authentic love. So stop seeing conflict as the end of the road. It's not. It's the door you walk through to find something even better on the other side: truth, trust, and transformation. We spend so much of our lives trying to look strong. We build walls. We wear masks. We pretend to have it all together because we think that's what strength looks like. But the truth is, the strongest people, the ones who build the deepest connections, aren't the ones who never struggle. They're the ones who have the courage to be seen. Vulnerability is not weakness. In fact, it's the real flex. Being vulnerable means telling the truth even when it's uncomfortable. It means saying, I'm scared, or I'm hurt, or I don't have the answer, and still holding your head high. That kind of honesty takes more strength than pretending you're fine. Anyone can fake confidence. But being real in a world that encourages filters and perfection, that takes guts. We've been taught that emotions make us soft, that if we open up, we'll be judged, rejected, or taken advantage of. And yes, vulnerability carries risk, but it also carries reward. Because without vulnerability, there is no intimacy. You can't truly be loved if you're not truly known. And you can't be known if you're hiding behind a version of yourself you think is more acceptable. We crave connection, but we're afraid to be open. We want to be chosen, but we don't want to be exposed. So we stay guarded. We say, I'm fine, when we're falling apart. We push people away when we need them most. And then we wonder why love feels so far out of reach. The truth is, real relationships are built on realness, on truth, on shared humanity. The strongest couples, the deepest friendships, the most meaningful connections all have one thing in common: vulnerability. The ability to say, this is me, not the polished version, not the curated image, me, and I trust you enough to see it. When you're vulnerable, you open the door to trust. You give the other person a chance to understand you, to support you, to meet you where you are. You stop performing and start relating. You stop impressing and start connecting. That's where real love lives, not in the image, but in the honesty. And here's what's powerful. When you go first, Vulnerability also fuels growth. Because when you can admit where you're struggling, you invite learning. When you own your mistakes, you make space for healing. When you stop hiding your needs, you give them a chance to be met. Growth doesn't come from pretending you've got it all figured out. It comes from being willing to ask for help when you don't. The strongest relationships are not the ones where no one ever breaks down. They're the ones where both people feel safe enough to break down and still be held. It's not about being emotionally bulletproof. It's about being emotionally available. That's what creates connection. That's what builds intimacy. That's what deepens love. So if you think vulnerability makes you weak, think again. It's easy to act tough. It's easy to hide. What's hard is to be honest. To show up fully. To say, here I am. Messy, imperfect, but real. That's the flex. That's the power. Because in the end, no one connects with the mask. They connect with the human behind it. The most magnetic thing you can be is yourself. Flaws and all. So be brave enough to open up. That's not losing control. That's taking it back. Too many people go into relationships thinking they need to perform, to impress, to be constantly on. Somewhere along the line, love became a stage. Something we're supposed to audition for, compete for, or earn. But a real relationship isn't a performance. It's a partnership. And when you trade performance for partnership, everything changes. Partnership is about showing up as you are, not who you think they want you to be. It's not about trying to meet someone's ideal or prove your worth through accomplishments, looks, or status. It's about connection, shared values, mutual support, a deep sense of we're in this together. In performance mode, you're always managing perception. You're thinking, how do I look? Did I say the right thing? Will they still like me if I'm not perfect today? That mindset is exhausting. It turns love into a transaction, something you earn, not something you live. And when you perform for love, you start to believe you have to maintain the act to keep it. But love isn't something you should have to earn. You shouldn't have to work for worthiness. You're not a product to be sold. You're a person to be understood, respected, and loved for who you really are. A partner doesn't expect you to be perfect. They expect you to be present. They want the real you, not your resume. In a true partnership, both people are allowed to be human, to make mistakes, to have bad days, to not always know the answer. And instead of judgment, there's grace. Instead of pressure, there's patience. Because in partnership, the goal isn't to impress each other. It's to support each other, to grow together, to lift each other when life gets heavy. Partnership means building something side by side, not competing for the spotlight. It's less about look at me and more about let's do this together. It's not about outperforming your past or outshining someone else's ex. It's about creating something new, something real, something sustainable. When you choose partnership over performance, you also make space for emotional intimacy. You can actually talk about what you're feeling without worrying it'll make you look weak. You can be vulnerable without fearing rejection because you're not trying to impress anymore. You're trying to connect. And that connection is what makes the relationship resilient. People often think chemistry is the most important thing, and sure, it matters. But chemistry fades, partnership grows. Chemistry might get you in the door, but partnership keeps you in the room. It's built on trust, on respect, on shared effort and emotional availability. When you're stuck performing, you're always wondering when the other shoe will drop. Will they still love me if they see the parts I hide? But when you're in a partnership, you already know the answer. You're loved for your truth, not your polish. You don't have to be on to be enough. You just have to be there. And that's the freedom that comes with real love. You can exhale, you can rest, you can stop pretending, stop performing, stop proving, and start being. That's what a relationship should feel like. Not a stage, but a safe space. Not a show, but a shared life. So if you're dating, stop asking yourself how you can be more impressive. Start asking whether the connection feels mutual, whether it feels like a partnership. Can you be real with this person? Do they meet you halfway? Can you build a life with them, not just a highlight reel? And if you're in a relationship now, take a breath. Take off the mask. Stop trying to be perfect and start being present. Because at the end of the day, love isn't about how well you perform. It's about how well you partner.